Very good morning to all my dear listeners. Today, here we are to start the next part from the chapter or from the life of our master Shri Ramkrishna Paramhansa Dev. So, let's proceed. Sambhucharan Malik, of whose devotion to Sri Ramakrishna we already know, succumbed to diabetes about this time. His wife was his worthy partner and served Sri Ramakrishna and the Holy Mother with great fidelity. The master went to see him on his deathbed and on his return remarked, "The oil in Shambhu's lamp has run out." His words, alas, proved too true. Noble and God-fearing Shambhu retained his courage to the last. Just a few days before his death, he remarked cheerfully to Hriday, "I am not at all anxious about the end. I am ready with my kit for the journey." Shambhu was one of those great souls whom the Divine Mother had shown to Sri Ramakrishna as one of his own, and on their first meeting, the Master recognized him as such. Shambhu, as he used to say, was his second Rasadar or supplier of necessities, appointed by the mother herself after Mathur's death to look to his comforts. In this connection, we must tell of one incident of Sri Ramakrishna's life which shows how deeply the spirit of truthfulness was ingrained in his nature, and how even in unguarded moments the Divine Mother protected him. Shambhu had a dispensary for the poor in his garden. Learning that Sri Ramakrishna was a frequent sufferer from diarrhea, he advised him to take a few doses of opium and offered to give some before he left. Sri Ramakrishna accepted, but in the course of the conversation, both forgot about it. After taking his leave, the master went a few steps when he remembered about the opium. Coming back, he found that Shambhu was busy. Not wishing to trouble him, Sri Ramakrishna took a little opium from one of the men in charge and again set out for the Kali temple. But to his surprise, he found that though he was perfectly familiar with the locality, he kept straying into wrong paths. Casting his eyes behind, he could plainly see the path leading to Shambhu's place, but the way ahead was not clear. Wondering, he went back and again started for Rani Rashmani's garden, carefully noting the way. Again he became confused. He could not find the right path and felt a backward pull as well. After repeated struggles, it suddenly came to him that Shambhu had asked him to take the opium from him, not from his agent, who had no right to give it without permission. He might have been guilty of falsehood and theft if the Divine Mother had not deterred him. So he threw the packet back through a window, calling out as he did so, "Look, I am returning your opium." Now, as he set out for the temple, he could see the way clearly. There was no spell over his mind, and he safely reached it. Referring to this incident, he said afterwards, "It is because I have placed my whole responsibility upon the mother that she holds me by the hand and never allows me to stray even by an inch from the path." Captain Vishwanath Upadhyay of Nepal state, whom we have just mentioned, was descended from a line of brave and pious Brahmin ancestors. His father was a Subadar in the Indian army and used to worship the Lord Shiva even on the battlefield. Vishwanath was a great scholar and devotee. He had a passion for reading the scriptures and knew the Gita, Bhagavata, and Vedanta by heart. Every day he worshipped his chosen deity with scrupulous attention to detail. He was a distinguished officer in the Nepal Raj, and at the time of which we are speaking was in charge of the state timber yard opposite Calcutta. One time he saw in a dream a man surrounded by a circle of light beckoning to him to come and receive the highest spiritual knowledge. It was not long after that he heard that a great devotee was living in Rani Rashmani's garden at Dakshineshwar. He set out to meet him, and to his utter astonishment found him to be the man of his dream. He was so attracted to the master that he stayed the night there. Sri Ramakrishna treated him like an old friend. Thenceforth, Vishwanath visited Dakshineshwar frequently. He was a truth loving man. Once, some timber in his yard was carried away by a tide in the Ganges, causing great loss to the state. He postponed submitting the returns to headquarters for that year, in the hope that the following year's profit would make good the loss. A distorted version of the situation reached the authorities, and he was summoned to Kathmandu to explain. He was frightened but resolved to tell the truth. Before setting out for Nepal, he came to Dakshineshwar and related everything to the master. Sri Ramakrishna said, "You have not stolen the timber. Put the real facts before the authorities, and they cannot but pardon you. Don't be afraid, the mother will protect you." Vishwanath felt greatly relieved by this assurance and cheerfully started on his journey. His frank avowal of the circumstances pleased the Darbar, who promoted him to the rank of colonel and sent him back to Calcutta as ambassador. The master still lived on a high spiritual level, plunging into samadhi every now and then, sometimes remaining there for 3 days at a time. Vishwanath understood the master's lofty spiritual moods and came to look upon him as his guru. One day he said to a friend, "I have read the Vedas and other scriptures. I have also met a good many monks and devotees in different places, but it is in Sri Ramakrishna's presence that all my desires have been fulfilled. To me, he seems to be the embodiment of the truths of the scriptures. You too, I am sure, will experience this in time." So, my dear friends, today I am stopping here, and we will start a new chapter from the life of Sri Ramakrishna Paramhansa. Till then, be happy, be jolly, and keep praying. Shubhamastu.